If you win, you're one of us. Just remember, the car's a loner. Don't scratch it.
The Crew series is relatively young compared to other major racing franchises available on the market today, with the first game launching in 2014 to relatively mixed reviews. For the sequel, Ubisoft is determined to make their racing series stand out from the crowd by also adding water and aircraft into the mix. So will the Crew 2 be able to take on the likes of Forza and GT, or does it burn itself out? Welcome to MojoPlays, and this is our review of The Crew 2. Before we begin, we publish new content all week long, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. Just like its predecessor, The Crew 2 is an open-world racing title set across a scaled-down but still massive map of the United States mainland, complete with major cities represented from Los Angeles, New York, Miami, Vegas, and many more, not to mention a vast selection of natural landmarks. It's a big map, though perhaps a bit too big, as activities are stretched thin across the vast landscape, which can often lead to a lot of downtime. Fortunately, if you're the impatient type, you can always instantly fast travel to any activity on the map, which does bring into question as to why the map needs to be as big as it is, but hey.
Until you can wrap your head around that, you don't belong here.
These activities are the main attraction of The Crew 2. There are your standard races, of course, but what makes all these stand out are the different vehicle classes that cover land, sea, and air. There are 14 different race classes to choose from, with most of them unlocking the further you progress into the game. More importantly, they do feel distinctly different from one another for the most part.
We call them disciplines. You'll call them awesome. And isn't awesome what we're all after?
Road races as a whole go mostly as a hybrid of arcade and simulation type racing, though definitely leaning more in favor of the arcade-like physics. With the exception of other vehicles, almost any object you hit will either stop you in your tracks or won't affect your momentum at all, meaning that races will kick up a lot of debris on the track, which creates a very chaotic look for some of these courses. On top of your usual stock racing cars, you'll also get access to cars designed for drag races and drifting, which mostly follow the same physics. Although drift cars end up being a bit of an annoyance to use actually, as their handling is kinda slippery, making it very difficult to pull off the tricks that they're supposed to be designed for. Off-road races also come in different styles. You have your standard rallies, motocross races, and rallycross races, all of which are handled particularly well, though some rally layouts, despite sporting different scenery, do start to feel repetitive after a while. And then there is what is by far the best racing class in the game.
You're on a roll. Now just don't roll your truck.
Monster trucks. Most surprisingly, their events take place in what seem like oversized skate parks. And you can make them twist and turn mid-air, making the game feel kind of like Tony Hawk's Monster Truck Edition or something. It is, yes, completely absurd yet completely awesome at the same time, and our only complaint here is that we wish we had more of these events.
I can outfly you and outdrive you any day of the week, and then stealth prank you on the weekend.
Stealth prank? Really? That's not even a word.
Watercraft only have 2 classes, but they feel very distinctly different. Jet sprints are smaller boats that aren't very fast but can make very tight turns, allowing them to be driven in very narrow waterways, such as the artificial canals in Las Vegas, because why not?
A boat race in the middle of the desert. It's a crazy idea, but that's exactly why it works.
Contrarily, power boats are driven across larger bodies of water, such as along the ocean shoreline, or down the Colorado River, or jumping over the Hoover Dam. Yeah, the game really tries to push the absurdity of where you can race around the United States. Aircraft, unfortunately, have the least interesting events. While they're useful in free roaming since they're the fastest vehicles and, well, they can fly, because their events take place in the air, there's very little to separate the events from one another, and they end up feeling kind of repetitive rather fast. Especially seeing as there are times where the game has trouble registering certain maneuvers that you have to pull off in the acrobatic events. All in all, the game does offer a lot of nice surprises, though some events do feel more polished than others. You start the game with only 4 classes available to you, and you have to unlock the rest by earning followers, which you gain by performing various tricks to get higher ranks, and this in turn unlocks new classes. But aside from your first 4 vehicles, which you get for free, you have to purchase a new specific vehicle before you can take part in that particular event class. These vehicles can be purchased either with in-game money you earn from winning events, doing side activities, or, you guessed it, with real-world money. The thing is, these vehicles can actually be really pricey, especially the ones required for more prestigious events. as the prize money you earn is often very small, which means you end up having to complete a lot of events, sometimes repeatedly, in order to grind up enough money to get access to new events. Therefore, if you're the impatient type of player, proceed with caution, because it can be tempting to drop some bucks to get further into the game if and when repetition starts to set in.
Not that one, little grasshopper. Not yet.
You'll also constantly earn new loot to upgrade your vehicle, through a process that is thankfully completely streamlined, so you don't have to be a car enthusiast to know what part is the better one to install. All you need to do is pick the part that has the bigger number on it. If you don't know how bigger numbers work, then I'm sorry, but everyone else should be fine. Anyways, loot can be achieved either by completing events or by finding boxes full of loot hidden across the map. Yeah, loot boxes, but not those types of loot boxes. Ubisoft has handled these ones with a bit more restraint and responsibility than other publishers have. This means that you cannot purchase loot or any RNG-related items with real money, at least for now. Plus, any loot you obtain is always guaranteed to be better than what you currently have.
Doesn't look like much.
It doesn't have to if it's got the right kind of monster under the hood.
All in all, the game's progression system can just be pretty slow and has a few issues. We came up to moments where events for certain classes recommended parts with higher levels than what we had, but there were no new events for that class available to us to obtain new loot, forcing us to grind previously completed events, which really hurt the game's pacing.
Am I seeing things, or is there a baby seat in the back of one of the cars lining up?
There are some events which offer loaner vehicles that are designed specifically for that race, which are by far more interesting since they even the level of pure driving skill challenges, even if they feature some very questionable product placement, such as one race that features Papa John's pizza branding for reasons. Well, the reason is money. The game also comes with a story that involves a no-name rookie on his path to becoming a pro racer, the message of racing culture being a family, the thrill of the race, and the blah 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 blah. It's very, very generic and forgettable. There are a few cutscenes with some very impressive animations, but the dialogue is mostly in one ear and out the other. It's also clear that the story doesn't alter to reflect your actions, such as one race where we finished second, yet a following story cutscene showed us standing on the first place podium.
Can we get a shot of you with the winner, Wade?
Playing on the PS4, visually the game is amazing in some places and questionable in others. The lighting in the game is particularly impressive, creating some visually stunning sunsets and night drives soaked in neon-filled atmosphere. However, as with any open-world game, a lot of distant structures have very low-res textures, as well as multiple cases of pop-in every once in a while. The game also runs at 30 FPS across the PS4 and Xbox One consoles, with 60 FPS only really being available to PC players. The soundtrack could definitely use some more songs though, as each genre playlist usually offered only an average of about an hour or two worth of music before getting into replays. Finally, the game does require an always online connection, as it allows you to discover other players driving around the open world map. To be honest though, its usage doesn't really justify an always on necessity, as there's very little interaction possible between other players and random strangers to the point where we mostly just ignored them. However, the biggest omission from the game, at least at launch, is that there's no competitive multiplayer component, a feature that Ivory Tower has confirmed won't be available until December. Considering that Ubisoft seems to be pushing this as a games-as-service model, we fear that such an omission might kinda hurt the game's longevity.
In the meantime, I suggest you figure out what you want to do.
With all that said, The Crew 2 left us with mixed feelings. While there's certainly a healthy variety of content that we didn't have time to completely cover in this review, and there are certainly some great highlights worth pointing out, the tight progression system and a greater amount of less interesting events ends up leaving it in a good but not great category. Racing fans might get some enjoyment out of this one, but they might be turned off by the streamlined upgrade system and lack of a PvP mode. Though, we think that more casual fans might have some fun here, just so long as you're not the impatient type.
All that you can do is practice, come back, and try again.
Thanks for watching Mojo Plays. Be sure to subscribe and click on the link in the description below to check out our suggestion page and vote on what content you'd like to see us cover next.